Hello students, now we will see the further question answer, a long question answer of this chapter. Let's see the first question. Describe the structure and functioning of the nephron. We already studied this portion in the excretion system of a human being. As you know, the nephrons are the filtration unit of the kidney, which contains the large number of blood vessels. Each blood vessel is known as a glomerulus. And another function of the nephron, that at the starting portion of the nephron it's known as the Bowman's capsule, where the ultrafiltration processes occur. In that, some substance which is initially filtered, such as glucose, amino acid and salt, and the measure amount the water, which is forcefully filtered by the ultrafiltration process. Then after, it further reabsorb whatever the remaining useful particle is there. Then after, the urine is formed. This urine flow along the tube, and then after it is go into the urethra. In this question, you have to draw the structure of the Bowman nephron. In that, you have to describe the three parts of the nephron. The starting portion, cup-like structure called the Bowman's capsule. Then after, it is terminate into the long tube. In that, you have to describe the Hanel's loop, and then at the last, collectively duct. Now let's see the main function of the nephron. The blood enters the kidney through the renal arteries, which branches into the many capillaries that we know as a glomerulus. The water and the solute are transferred to the nephron at the Bowman's capsule. As I told you that in the Bowman's capsule, the ultrafiltration is occur. Then after, in the proximal tube, some substance like amino acid, glucose and the salt, which is reabsorbed. And now whatever the unwanted particle is there, it is we consider as a urine. The filtrate moves down in the loop of that is called the Hanel's loop, where the more water is absorbed. Then after, this filtrate is further moved to the distal tubule, and finally it is terminate into the collecting duct. This collecting duct collect the urine from the nephron. The urine formed in each kidney, then it is entered to the ureter. Then ureter, it is transferred to the urinary bladder. When the urinary bladder is full, then it is go outside by the urethra. Let's see the another question, that is, what are the methods used by the plant to excrete the excretory product? Means in this question you have to write down about the plant excretory system. As we know, the excess water which is present in the plant, that is lost as a water vapor through the stomata. This process is known as a transpiration. So the first process by which the excess product, or you can say the waste product, go outside the body, that is transpiration process. A plant can get rid of excess water by the transpiration process. For the other waste, plant use the fact that maybe the tissue consists of a dead cell, and that may can even lost some plants such as the leaves. Many plant waste products are stored in the cellular vacuoles and some of the waste product may be stored in the leaves, then after which is fall off. The other waste product are the stored as a form of resin, gums, in the old xylem, and it is a waste product for the plant, but it is useful for the us. As you know, the resin and the gums are useful for the many companies for making of rubber and all. Plant also excreted some waste substance into the soil around them. Now let's see let's start the third number question. How is the amount of urine produced regulated? The amount of urine produced is depend on how much water is excess water is present in the urine, and how much is dissolved waste water in the water. And the other factor which is responsible, that is environment and the ADH hormone, means the adrenaline hormone, which is regulate the production of the urine. Now let's see the next question. The kidney in the human beings are a part of the system for nutrition, respiration, excretion and transportation. Which is the right answer? As we know, the kidney is the main unit of the excretion. So the answer is D. Why? The excretory system of human beings includes a pair of kidney, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and the urethra. The kidney are located in the abdomen, one on either side of the backbone, and the urine produced in the kidney, it passes through the urethra, then urinary bladder, and then after via urethra it is going outside the body. Second question. The xylem in the plants are responsible for transport of water, transfer of food, transport of amino acid, transport of oxygen. The answer of this question, that it's mainly responsible for the transportation of the water, because rest of the things which is transport by the, you can say, the phloem, food and the amino acid, and the transportation of oxygen, that is happen due to the respiration and the photosynthesis process. Now let's move further. Third question. The autotrophic mode of nutrition requires carbon dioxide and water, chlorophyll, sunlight, and all of the above. The answer is all of the above. As we already see in the chapter, that the photosynthesis basic requirement, in that these three of the things are included, that the carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll and sunlight. Without it, the autotrophs cannot make their own food, because without these things the photosynthesis process is not occur. Let's move further. The breakdown of pyruvate to give the carbon dioxide, water and energy takes place in cytoplasm, mitochondria, chloroplast or nucleus. As we know that the pyruvate is converted into the carbon dioxide, water and the energy. This process is related to aerobic respiration, and at the last equation we see that the aerobic respiration, in presence of the oxygen, this process is occur into the mitochondria. Rest of the two equation is for the anaerobic respiration, and it is occur in the absence of the oxygen and lack of the oxygen. So the answer is the mitochondria. The fifth number. How are the fats digested in our body? Where does this process takes place? The small intestine is the place for the complete digestion of either it is carbohydrate, fats or the proteins, because it is received the secretion from the liver and the pancreas. The food coming from the stomach is usually in acidic in nature. Why it is acidic in nature? Because it secretes the dilute HCl, and due to the dilute HCl it creates the acidic nature. Then after we have to make it alkaline nature, because if it is in alkaline nature, then the pancreatic enzyme can act on it. Then what is the function of the bile? That bile function is helpful for the breakdown of the fats, larger globules to converted into the smaller globules. Or these processes also you can say the emulsification process. Fat are usually present in the intestine in the form of larger globules, which makes it difficult for the enzyme to act on them. That's why this bile is breaking down this large globule into these small globules. Then after the pancreatic juice, which easily can act on it, trypsin and the lipase. In that the trypsin is break down the protein, and the lipase that is break down the emulsified fat, means the whatever the big molecules are converted into the small one, means the fat, and the that smaller globules is break down by the lipase and it is converted into the fatty acid and glycerol. The wall of the small intestine contains the gland which is secrete the intestinal juice. Again this fat is converted into the fatty acid and the glycerol by secretion of the small intestine, means the intestinal juice, by which the final digestion is occur. Now let's see the next question. What is the role of saliva in the digestion of the food? As we know that the salivary gland which is present in the mouth and which secrete the saliva, and its function of the saliva, that is it is to be absorbed from the alimentary canal, that it has been broken into the small molecules. This process is mainly done with the help of biological catalyst called the enzyme. This saliva, it contains the enzyme which is named as the salivary amylase. And the main function of the salivary amylase is the breakdown of the starch, and it converts this starch, or you can say the carbohydrate, into the molecules of the sugar in form of maltose. The food is mixed through the saliva. That's why the food is become a vat, and which is a help to engulf. Now next one. So you can also say the starting of digestion of the carbohydrate is start from the mouth by the salivary amylase. Now the next question. What are the necessary conditions for the autotrophic nutrition and what are its byproducts? As we know that the autotrophs, they are able to make their own food by the process called the photosynthesis. So you have to write down the requirement of the photosynthesis. In that we require the carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll and the sunlight. So let's start. The energy and the carbon requirement of the autotrophic organism is obtained by the process called the photosynthesis. It is defined as the process by which the autotrophs take in substance from the outside, surrounding and converted them into the stored form of the energy. This substance is taken in the form of carbon dioxide and water, which is converted into the carbohydrate in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. The main purpose of the carbohydrate is to provide energy to the plant. And the carbohydrate which is not used immediately or which is stored, that is stored as a form of starch that plant use later, and the store energy is generally used for the repair mechanism or growth mechanism. Now let's see the next question. What are the difference between the aerobic and the anaerobic respiration? Name some organisms that use the anaerobic mode of nutrition. In that you just write down the equation, what is the difference between the aerobic and the anaerobic, and we have to write down the example of it. In the anaerobic respiration, one example of the organism, that is of yeast. We see already in the equation that the absent of the oxygen, the yeast is formed the ethanol and carbon dioxide. Let's see the difference. As we know that the aerobic respiration, that is occur completely in the presence of the oxygen, whereas the anaerobic respiration that occurs in the absence of the oxygen as well as in the lack of the oxygen. The product by the aerobic respiration is formed, that is carbon dioxide, water and the energy, whereas anaerobic respiration, if the yeast is there, then it is formed the ethanol, or you can say the alcohol, carbon dioxide and the energy. But in the case of the muscle cell, it forms a lactic acid, carbon dioxide and little energy. In all the aerobic and the anaerobic respiration, both the starting processes occur in the cytoplasm and then after it is differentiate. So you can write down the first step of the aerobic respiration, takes place in the cytoplasm, and the next step is occur in the mitochondria. Whereas in the anaerobic respiration, the first step is also takes place in the cytoplasm, and the next step, which is does not takes place in the mitochondria. Here something wrong is there, so do not write down the mitochondria over there. The next difference, that in the aerobic respiration there is a complete breakdown of the glucose, whereas in anaerobic respiration it is incomplete breakdown of the glucose is occur. So you can say that the energy form or the energy amount in the anaerobic respiration is quite less than the aerobic respiration. Here it is already mentioned that the process of anaerobic respiration takes place in a lower organism like yeast, some species of the bacteria, parasite and the tapeworm. The amount of energy is also very less in the anaerobic respiration. Now let's see the another question. How are the alveoli designed to maximize the exchange of the gas? In that you have to write down the respiratory system. In that at the last, that is a sac-like structure that is called the alveoli, and the wall of the alveoli, it contains the network of the blood vessel. That point you have to keep it in mind and then after write down the answer. Let's see the answer. The lung is an important part of the body as it is used for the respiratory system. The passage inside the lungs, it is divided into the two smaller tubes which is finally terminate into the balloon-like structure that called alveoli. The alveoli is provide a structure where the exchange is gaseous of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide takes place. The walls of the alveoli contains the number of blood vessels. We know that when we breathe, we lift our rib and diaphragm which is flattened, so that we get the enough space to get inside the air, the body. Because of this action, air is sucked out. Due to the entering of the air in our body, or you can say the lungs, the alveoli means the last point of the lungs, it is also expanded. Due to the expansion of the alveoli, it is also increase the surface area, and which also help to maximize the exchange of the gas. The blood brings the essential carbon dioxide from the rest of the body and supply to the alveoli. Here the alveoli is contain the more oxygen as compared to body. So as a process of a diffusion, it is occur on the basis of the concentration of the gas. It is transferred from higher concentrate part to the lower concentrate part. Here the alveoli contains the oxygen maximum amount while comparing to body. So from the alveoli, the oxygen is diffused into the blood vessel. Then after, what happened into the blood vessel? It carries the carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide concentration is high in the blood vessel than the alveoli. So the carbon dioxide is get diffused inside the alveoli. And then after, by the inhale process, it go outside. Here the all phenomena are given, that the blood brings the essential carbon dioxide from the rest of the body and supplied to alveoli. The oxygen in the alveolar air is taken up by the blood and the alveoli blood vessel to be transferred to the all other cell of the body. During the normal breathing cycle, when air is taken in and the let out, the lungs always contain residual volume of air, so that there is a sufficient time for the oxygen to be absorbed and the carbon dioxide released. Now the next question, what would be the consequence of a deficiency of a hemoglobin in our body? In that you have to write down about if there is a lack of hemoglobin or the no hemoglobin is there in the body, then what happen? Means for that you know about the function of the hemoglobin. Then after you can write down this question answer. Hemoglobin is the protein responsible for the transportation of the oxygen to the body cell from the cellular respiration. As it is present in the blood, what is the function of red blood cell? That it contains the hemoglobin pigment, and which is responsible for the transportation of the oxygen during the respiration. If there is a deficiency of the hemoglobin, it can affect on the oxygen carrying capacity of the RBC, because it is main functions that the transportation of the oxygen. But if it is not proper amount and if it is in a deficiency, then it cannot transfer a measure amount of oxygen from one part to another part. If oxygen is not transferred in proper amount, then what happen? The energy is not released. Respiration is not do proper. If the respiration is not do proper, then the energy is not released. If the energy is not released, then what happen? We can feel laziness. We cannot do all the work. We can easily tired. Now the next question, describe the double circulation of the blood in the human being and why it is necessary. As we know, in the heart double circulation is occur. Why the double circulation occur? Because the single cycle blood goes twice in the heart. That's why this process is known as a double circulation, because the process helps to separating the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood to maintain the constant body temperature. In double circulatory system, it contains the both things, the pulmonary circulation and the systematic circulation. In the pulmonary circulation means when the right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood into the lungs, where it is oxygenated. What's the function of lungs? Whatever the right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood, taking that and then after converted into the oxygenated. Then this oxygenated blood is brought back to the left atrium. For that it is again pumped out and by the left ventricle and finally by the aorta it is go to the other parts of the body. This portion is converted into means you can say for the systematic circulation. The upper parts it is known as a pulmonary. Now the systematic circulation, in that you have to write down about the oxygenated blood. The oxygenated blood is pumped to the various part of the body from the left ventricle through the aorta. The deoxygenated blood from the different parts are collected into the right atrium by which vena cava. Vena cava to reach the right atrium. The right atrium then it is transferred to the right ventricles and from the right ventricles it is pumped out to the lungs. So this process is known as a double circulation. Now let's see the next question. What are the difference between the transport of material in the xylem and the phloem? In these also you have to write down about the difference between the xylem and the phloem. As we know, the xylem is transport the materials of the what liquid material, you can say the water and the minerals, whereas the phloem tissue which is helped to transfer the food material. Here the xylem work is the water transportation, so the direction of the transportation it's a upward direction, means the route to the all the parts of the body. Whereas in a phloem they have to transfer the food from the each and every part and this food is prepared into the leaf. So you can write down that the food is transferred in the both upward direction as well as the downward direction. Now let's see the next question. Compare the function of a alveoli in the lungs and the nephron in the kidney with the respect to the structure and the functioning. Here both the systems are asked, means alveoli which is related to respiratory system and the nephron which is related to excretory system. So you have to think and then after you have to write down. Let's see the structure of the alveoli. The alveoli are the tiny balloon-like or you can say the sac-like structure which is present at the terminate portion of the lungs or you can say the inside terminate portion of the lungs. Whereas nephron are the tubular structure which is present into the kidney. Sorry. The wall of a alveoli are 1 cell thick and it contains the excessive network of the blood capillaries because it is have to exchange the gas like oxygen and CO2. Whereas the nephron which also contains the so many blood capillaries or blood tubular structure that is known as a glomerulus and this Bowman's capsule it is known as a glomerulus and this nephron is contained the Bowman's capsule and the long renal tube, or you can also describe the parts that is a Hanel's loop, collecting duct, etc. Now let's see the function of the alveoli and the nephron. As we know that the alveoli is related to respiration, so the main function of the alveoli is the exchange of the O2 and the CO2 which takes place between the blood of the capillaries that surrounded to the alveoli and the gas present in the alveoli. Whereas in nephron, the blood enter kidney through the renal arteries and the blood is enter here and whatever the waste is generated like nitrogen and all, that is as a form of urine, it is collect in the collecting duct. Here you can also write down the ultrafiltration process which is occur in the Bowman's capsule. It is not mentioned over here but you can write down. Second thing, that is a reabsorption of the material like amino acid, glucose, water, etc. The next function of the alveoli are the site of the gaseous exchange, whereas the nephron, that are the basic filtration unit. Here almost your all the chapters are covered, and I try to cover all the NCERT book question answer, try to solve the all the NCERT question and the answer. Hope you will understand this chapter. Now in the next video we will start a chemistry chapter, that is the first chapter, chemical reaction. So I request to all of you, just go through the 9th standard book once, that atomic numbers, what is the sign, etc. So you can easily understand the first chapter. Thank you.